For more than a decade, I carefully placed a girl on a pedestal, my own personal North Star. But she dove headfirst into the mud for a deadbeat who only knew how to use his fists on her. I nearly destroyed myself dragging her out, and all I got for it was a hatred so deep it was etched into her bones. She used me to climb to the peak of her career, all while waiting for her true love to get out of prison. Then she kicked me to the curb and told me to go die. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in a year. She ran to him without a second thought. Oh, this was just perfect. A text message lit up my phone. It was from her. Kyle gets out today. Go pick him up. Take the black Escalade, he'll like that. And book the best VIP room at the Sovereign for tonight. We're celebrating. The tone was a command, not even a single please to spare. It was as if I wasn't the guy she'd known for over 10 years, the partner who helped her turn a failing workshop into a public corporation. No, it was like I was just a dog she could order around. Kyle. The name dredged up some old, buried sludge. Images flashed through my mind, uninvited. Lily in high school, wearing a white sundress, her smile as clean and bright as a magnolia blossom. Then the Lily who, for Kyle, started smoking, burning cigarette marks on her own arm, skipping class, getting into fights, even getting pregnant. And finally, 7 years ago at the police station, her eyes drilling into me, filled with pure loathing as she screamed, "It was you. You did this to him. If you hadn't called the cops, he never would have gone to jail. I hate you. Jake, I hate you." She hated me for calling the police after Kyle had beaten her black and blue, then dragged her to a back alley clinic for an abortion that nearly killed her from blood loss. Hated me for getting the law involved, which uncovered Kyle's extensive rap sheet. Robbery, assault, and even dirtier business that ultimately got him a 7-year sentence. I saved her life, and in doing so, became her greatest enemy. After he was locked up, she changed. She became completely dependent on me, acting as if our ugly history never existed. She needed my money, my skills, my connections to patch up the education and the life she'd thrown away for Kyle, to fuel her swelling ambition. And like a fool, I thought that with time, the scars would fade, that eventually she'd see my worth. I practically bled myself dry for her, co-founding her company, working through the night, drinking until my stomach lining gave out just to land one crucial client, calling in every favor I had to clear her path. Finally, the company went public. Its market cap was staggering, and now I understood. My entire purpose was to build a magnificent stage for her, just so she could welcome her prince home from prison. And me, the old dog who had served his purpose? It was time for me to crawl away, preferably drop dead, and not get in the way of their reunion. A profound sense of exhaustion and absurdity washed over me. I picked up my phone and typed a reply. "Go fuck yourself, you absolute clown." One sentence. Clean. Final. Then I buzzed my assistant on the intercom. "Cancel all my meetings and appointments for this afternoon." I stood up and walked to the massive floor-to-ceiling windows, looking down at the sprawling city. The traffic flowed like blood through concrete arteries, the people like ants. I once thought that if I just worked hard enough, I could build her a sanctuary in this steel jungle and nest safe from the storm. What a fucking joke. Later, I received a call from Lily apologizing. She invited me over to her place for dinner. I went, and I think I died. The last thing I remembered before everything went dark was Lily, clinging to Kyle's arm at the door of my own office, her face a mask of undisguised disgust and triumph. "Kyle," she'd said, "did he sign the stock transfer papers? Once he signs, you can get rid of him." And Kyle, the man I'd personally sent to prison, wrapped his arm around her waist and gave me a cruel, taunting smirk. My heart seized, and the world went black. A chaotic room, loud music, a sharp, cloying smell. Where the hell was I? I coughed violently and forced my eyes open. Blurry figures, a table cluttered with beer bottles and fruit trays. A few guys and girls, some in school uniforms, others in the tight jean uniform of small-town wannabe toughs, were laughing and rolling dice. I froze, instinctively looking down at myself. A blue and white high school track jacket, skinny wrists, and in my hand, a plastic cup of cheap, foamy beer. What is this? My head snapped up, my eyes frantically scanning the noisy booth until they locked onto a figure in the corner. Lily, that ungrateful snake, that goddamn viper. A younger Lily, almost childishly innocent under the layers of makeup. She wore a modified, shortened version of the school uniform skirt, her face painted with a garishness that didn't fit her age. But her eyes were startlingly bright as she snuggled against a guy with bleached blonde hair and a black, studded jacket. That guy was Kyle. He had one arm around Lily, a cigarette in his other hand. He blew a cloud of smoke, leaned down, and whispered something in her ear. She giggled, tilting her head back to kiss his jawline. The scene burned itself into my brain. I was back 10 years ago, in the spring of my senior year. Back when Lily had just met Kyle and was starting to get pulled in by his so-called street cred and rebellious charm. The first step on her path to ruin. And the first step of my own decade-long life as a complete doormat. After the initial shock, a cold, unprecedented clarity washed over me, extinguishing the last embers of the fantasy I held about my perfect girl. The old Jake, the one from before, would be watching this with a twisted gut, struggling, hesitating, wanting to go over and say something but terrified of making Lily angry. Then, in the days to come, he'd watch her sink deeper, reach out to pull her back, and get shoved away by both of them, earning nothing but her undying resentment. My stomach churned, whether from the cheap beer or the pathetic memory, I couldn't tell. Jake, what are you spacing out for? Drink up. A guy with a shock of green hair, clearly one of Kyle's cronies, shoved me, handing me a freshly opened beer. Damn, dude, you're slower than my grandma. In my past life, to stay in Lily's orbit to fit in, I would have choked it down, even if it meant spending the night with my head in the toilet. But now, fuck that. I looked at him, a slow smile spreading across my face, and took the bottle. Just as everyone expected me to take a swig, I flipped my wrist and brought the entire bottle down hard on his head. Crack! The bottle shattered. Amber liquid and foam gushed out, splashing everywhere. The noisy booth fell silent. Every single person stared at me, their faces a mixture of shock and disbelief. Even Lily, who had been laughing with Kyle, turned to look, her heavily drawn eyebrows knitting together in annoyance. Her eyes shot daggers at me, as if to say, Jake, are you trying to ruin my night again? Kyle narrowed his eyes, pulling Lily closer as he glared at me, his expression oozing threat. I set the neck of the broken bottle on the table with a sharp clink. Ignoring the stunned, angry, and confused looks from everyone else, I looked straight at Lily. My voice was calm, without a ripple of emotion. Lily, you want to be with him? She was taken aback, clearly not expecting me to be so direct. Then she lifted her chin, like a proud and foolish peacock. Yeah, so what? Jake, Kyle's not like you bookworms. He's a real man. This is my life. Stay out of it. Okay, I nodded, a genuine smile of relief touching my lips. Hope you get everything you deserve. Without another glance at any of them, I turned, pushed my way through the stunned crowd in the booth, and walked toward the exit. No one dared to stop me. At the end of the day, they were just a bunch of teenage punks. Behind me, I heard Lily's indignant shriek, Jake, what's that supposed to mean? Get back here. And Kyle's contemptuous laugh. Forget that loser. Who gives a shit about him? Come on, babe, let's drink. I spun around and stared him down. You got something else to say to me? Silence. I stepped out of the bar. The cool, early summer night air hit my face, washing away the nauseating stench of smoke and cheap liquor. I took a deep breath of fresh air and looked up at the sky, at the few scattered stars blinking in the darkness. Perfect. This time, Lily, you can go chase your great love story. I'm done playing. Returning to the house, a place that felt both dated and meticulously clean in the depths of my memory. I found my mother in the living room, knitting while she waited for me. A glass of warm milk sat on the end table. Seeing me, she stood up, her face etched with worry. Jake, you're back. Where's Lily? Didn't she come with you? In my past life, I constantly lied to my mom, covering for Lily's late nights. Now, looking at my mother's still youthful face, a pang of regret hit me. I walked over and gave her a gentle hug. Mom, that's over now. Lily's made her choices. From now on, we just need to worry about ourselves. My mother froze for a second, confused by my sudden change, but then she just patted my back softly. Okay, sweetie, as long as you understand. Now, drink your milk and get some sleep. You got school tomorrow. Senior year is important, but don't put too much pressure on yourself. That night, I slept more soundly than I had in years. Without the constant anxiety over Lily, without the exhausting mental gymnastics of trying to pull her back onto the right path, the clear sense of purpose from this second chance left me completely focused. I already had everything I needed. The next day at school, as expected, rumors about my antisocial behavior at the bar and Lily and Kyle's even more in love status were already making the rounds. During the break between classes, Lily sought me out, her face a mask of annoyed superiority, as if I had personally offended her. Jake, what was that yesterday? Who were you trying to impress by storming out like that? She demanded, acting as if my departure was a grave insult. Students nearby perked up their ears. I closed the SAT prep book in my hands and looked at her calmly. It wasn't anything. You guys were having fun. I felt out of place, so I left. My placid response seemed to infuriate her. She clearly would have preferred to see me miserable, begging, or pleading with her. You were looking down on Kyle, she said, her voice rising. I'm telling you, Jake, Kyle is 10 times the man you are. He's not some nerd who only knows how to bury his face in a book. He's a real man. Stay out of my business from now on. I just nodded. Okay, I get it. Anything else? I need to study. My refusal to engage left her fuming, like she'd thrown a punch and hit a pillow. Her face turned red, and she finally stomped her foot. You're impossible, she huffed, then ran off, probably to find her real man for comfort. After school, I no longer shadowed Lily like a private detective, terrified she'd be dragged off by Kyle to some godforsaken place. I went straight to the public library, found a quiet corner, and started reviewing my high school curriculum and planning my future. Knowledge and skills, that was real power. Love? Especially the kind of love Lily craved, filled with violence and degradation. It was nothing more than a cheap, self-indulgent prelude to self-destruction. The days passed. I focused on my studies, started working out, and reconnected with old friends I neglected because of Lily. My life became full and peaceful. It's true what they say. After you've faced death, even studying can feel like a luxury. Lily, on the other hand, went completely off the rails. She skipped class more and more. The makeup on her face grew heavier, and you could often smell the stale smoke and booze on her from a seat away. Teachers tried to talk to her, but it was useless. She just talked back. She started hanging out exclusively with the deadbeats from town, calling herself Kyle's girl, convinced that this was the rebellious, romantic life she was meant to live. Occasionally, we'd pass each other on campus. She would always give me a look of disgust, mixed with a strange sort of pride, as if to say, see, I'm doing so much better now that you're not trying to control me. And I would either ignore her completely or give her the kind of detached, indifferent look you'd give a stranger. That indifference bothered her more than any lecture ever could. She seemed completely unable to handle the fact that my world no longer revolved around her. Finally, on a Friday afternoon, she cornered me at the school gate. Kyle and his shiftless crew were leaning against their motorcycles nearby, cigarettes dangling from their lips, watching us with smirks. Lily didn't look good. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying, and there was a faint bruise on her arm. Jake, she called out. Her tone was still aggressive, but it was laced with a hint of something else, vulnerability, and a command. I'm out of money on my phone. Give me some cash. In my past life, if she'd asked, I would have given her my lunch money, even worked odd jobs in secret to get her what she wanted. Seriously? Did I have a spell cast on me back then? What a moron. Thank God that was over. I looked at her, my voice genuinely surprised. Why would I give you money? Don't you have parents? My question made her falter, a flash of embarrassment and anger crossing her face. You? Aren't we friends? I need it right now. Friends. I let out a small laugh. Do friends ignore advice, leap into a dumpster fire, and then blame the person who tried to stop them? Lily, we haven't been friends for a long time. For money, you should be asking your real man, not me. My words were a slap in the face. Her expression went pale, especially with Kyle watching from a distance. Jake, you're an asshole, she shrieked. If you don't want to give it, just say no. Why do you have to be so condescending? Kyle, he just doesn't have any money right now. Oh, I said, nodding slowly. So, a real man is someone who lets his girlfriend go broke and then has her beg other guys for cash. I didn't raise my voice, but it was clear enough for not only Lily to hear, but for Kyle and his goons as well. Kyle's face instantly darkened. He threw his cigarette on the ground and strode over. The hell did you just say, pretty boy? He grabbed Lily, yanked her behind him, and got in my face, puffing out his chest in the classic street punk intimidation pose. The old Jake, the scrawny bookworm, might have been scared, but I'd seen much worse. I knew exactly how fragile this kind of posturing was. Besides, I'd been working out. My body wasn't what it used to be. I met his glare without flinching, my tone bordering on mockery. I said, what kind of man can't even support his own girlfriend and has to let her grovel for money from someone else? Is it your brand of masculinity, Kyle? His face turned a deep, blotchy red. A crowd of students leaving school was starting to form. For a guy like him, his image, his rep, was everything. You son of a bitch, he snarled, swinging a fist at my head. In my past life, he'd beaten me up for trying to stop him from taking Lily somewhere. Back then, Lily had always held me back when I tried to fight back. But I wasn't the same person. I dodged his punch with a quick sidestep and subtly tripped him. Thrown off balance by the force of his own missed swing, Kyle stumbled forward, nearly face-planting on the pavement. A few stifled laughs came from the crowd. Humiliated, he regained his balance and lunged at me again. Kyle, don't. Lily suddenly screamed, grabbing his arm. We're at school. Security is coming. She was pretending to de-escalate, but her eyes were fixed on me, burning with hatred, as if I was the one who had started all of this. Kyle was panting, his face contorted with rage. He pointed a finger at my nose. You just wait, you little shit. I'm gonna fucking kill you. I calmly straightened the collar of my jacket that he grabbed. A small smile played on my lips. Anytime, but just a friendly reminder. Assault gets you detention, maybe worse. You're not quite 18 yet, are you? Ever wonder what juvie tastes like? My words hit their mark. Guys like him, they're bullies. They prey on the weak and fold at the first sign of real consequences. Just as I thought. His eyes flickered. He spat a few more curses, all bluster and no bite, before letting Lily and his friends drag him away. As Kyle roughly pulled her away, Lily looked back at me one last time. Her gaze was filled with venom, as if I were the villain who had destroyed her beautiful romance. I turned and walked in the opposite direction, unbothered. The setting sun cast my shadow long on the pavement. I knew this was just the beginning. A vindictive punk like Kyle wouldn't let this go, and Lily would only sink deeper into the mess she'd chosen. And me? I would just watch. Kyle, predictably, didn't let it go. A few days later, after evening study hall, I deliberately took a shortcut through a deserted alley. Sure enough, he and a few of his cronies were waiting, holding pipes and baseball bats. All right, smartass. Let's see you talk your way out of this, Kyle sneered. I quickly counted them. 4. Tricky, but not impossible. I discreetly activated the panic button app I'd installed on my phone. This is all you've got, Kyle. I taunted him. Gotta call your buddies when you can't win a fight? Some real man you are. Shut your goddamn mouth. He was the first to charge. This time, I didn't just dodge. I let one of his friends land a glancing blow on my forearm with a pipe, a sharp, searing pain, and used the opening to drive my foot square into Kyle's stomach, sending him sprawling. The fight was on. I protected my head and vital organs, focusing all my energy on Kyle, singling him out in the chaos. The blows hurt, but my mind was calm. The wail of police sirens, growing closer, was perfectly timed. I immediately stopped fighting and curled up, playing the part of the innocent student getting jumped by thugs. The goons' faces went white. They tried to run, but the cops were already there, blocking the alley exit. All of us were hauled down to the station. During my statement, I spoke clearly. Officer, I don't know them. They just jumped me out of nowhere, tried to rob me, and started beating me. I was just defending myself. I showed them the fresh, angry welt and bruises on my arm. I like to press charges. Bullshit. This was personal. Kyle yelled. Personal. I looked at him, my eyes like ice. What personal business could I possibly have with you? Is it because your girlfriend asked me for money at school the other day, and I said no? Is that why you jumped me? Is that your excuse for assault and robbery? The logic was clean, the motive clear. Paired with my status as an honor student, my visible injuries, and the weapons they were carrying, it was obvious who the police were going to believe. 4 armed robbery and assault. On top of his existing record, Kyle was sent straight to juvenile detention. He wouldn't be gone for years, not yet, but it would be long enough. When Lily heard the news and rushed to the station, her eyes were red and swollen from crying. The second she saw me, she flew into a rage, lunging as if to claw my face off. Jake, it's you again. Your curse. Why do you always have to ruin everything for Kyle? An officer stepped between us. I watched her meltdown with cold detachment. Lily, get a grip. He and his friends ambushed me. They tried to rob me. I'm the victim here. A passerby called it in, not me. Your real man is a violent mugger. Is this really what you want? You're lying. Kyle would never do that. You must have provoked him. She shrieked, completely lost to reason. I didn't bother arguing. I finished my statement and walked out of the station, ignoring the sympathetic glances from the police. The throbbing in my arm was a sharp reminder, keeping me focused. After this, Lily and Kyle would probably hate me more than ever. But what did that have to do with me? Kyle was in juvie for 15 days. For those 15 days, Lily was like a ghost. She skipped school, loitered around the police station, and begged Kyle's so-called friends for help, only to be met with mockery, harassment, and wandering hands. She sent me a few texts. They started with curses, then devolved into tearful pleas, and finally, a pathetic hint of begging. Jake, none of them will help me. Do you think Kyle is getting beat up in there? I need money to bribe someone. Reading that last one, I almost laughed out loud. Bribe who? This wasn't some TV drama. He was a teenage delinquent in a county facility, not a cartel boss. I read the messages, then deleted the thread and blocked her number. I didn't reply once. 15 days later, Kyle was released. For Lily, it was like a great victory. She was more devoted to him than ever, convinced that a love that had endured such hardship was the real thing. She even spent the last of her allowance to throw him a welcome home party, celebrating his return from his ordeal. As for Kyle, the incident seemed to have cemented his twisted belief that I was obsessed with Lily and that everything I did was motivated by jealousy. This delusion fed his possessiveness, and he became even more controlling. He forbade Lily from talking to any other guys. Not that I would have talked to her anyway. The slightest thing would set him off, and the arguments would turn violent. And Lily, somehow, twisted this abuse into a sign of his affection. He just cares about me that much. She started showing up to school with bruises, a slap mark on her cheek one day, a dark purple welt on her arm the next. Students whispered, their pitying glances following her down the hall. But she held her head high, defiant, as if daring anyone to judge a love they couldn't possibly understand. Once, I overheard her intentionally showing off a round, ugly scar on her forearm to a group of girls. It was a cigarette burn. Look, she said, almost bragging. Kyle gave this to me. He said it's so, I'll always be his. The other girls fell silent, horrified. When I heard about it, my stomach turned. It was a sickness. She was beyond saving. Right before final exams, things finally exploded. Lily and Kyle were hanging out at a dingy pool hall when Kyle got into an argument with another crew over a stupid bet. A brawl broke out. In the chaos, someone shoved Lily hard. She slammed into the corner of a pool table and collapsed, clutching her stomach, blood pooling beneath her. Kyle saw her go down. But instead of helping, he saw it as a blow to his pride and fought even more savagely. The pool hall owner was the one who called 911. Lily was rushed to the hospital. It turned out she had been pregnant, and she had lost the baby. It was an ectopic pregnancy, and she was bleeding internally. The doctors almost lost her. The news ripped through the school. Her parents arrived at the hospital, devastated, and nearly fainted when they saw their daughter, pale as a sheet, in that sterile room. This time, there was no one left to cover for her, no one to clean up her mess. I didn't find out until after I'd finished my final exams. I heard she'd suffered severe internal damage and might never be able to have children. By then, I was holding an acceptance letter from MIT, ready to start my real life. After a moment's hesitation, I went to the hospital. Not out of concern. I want to see her failure up close. The room smelled of antiseptic. Lily was lying in bed, so thin she was almost skeletal. She was staring at the ceiling, her eyes vacant. The thick makeup was gone, revealing a face hollowed out by pain and exhaustion. When I walked in, her eyes shifted, slowly focusing on me. There was no hysteria, just a dead, hollow numbness. "You're here," she said, her voice a dry rasp. "Yeah, I placed the fruit basket I'd brought on the nightstand. Heard you were in some trouble. Came to see how you were doing." Silence. A long, heavy silence. "The baby's gone," she said suddenly, her voice flat. "The doctor said I might not ever be able to have kids." "Oh," I replied. "That's great news." More silence. "Okay, maybe that wasn't as funny as I thought it would be. What about Kyle?" I asked. Her body gave a slight, almost imperceptible tremble. A flicker of fear finally entered her eyes. They arrested him. They said it's serious this time. Someone was badly hurt, and they're looking at him for other stuff, too. I nodded. Expected. A guy like that was always destined to crash and burn. "Jake," she said, turning her head to look at me. Her empty eyes slowly filled with tears, a universe of regret and despair welling within them. "It hurts so much. I regret everything. I should have listened to you." Her voice broke into a sob. She reached out a trembling, emaciated hand, as if trying to grasp something. Can you please?" She stammered. "Help me again? Like you used to." Seeing her like this, hearing her long overdue confession, I felt nothing. Not a single ripple of pity. In fact, it was almost comical. The old Jake would have felt his heart shatter. He would have rushed to her side, held her, and whispered, "Don't be afraid. I'm here." But now, I took a step back, out of her reach. I saw her expression freeze, her eyes widening in disbelief. I leaned in slightly, my voice as cool and clinical as the room around me. "Lily, that road was your choice. You're a real man, your rebellious youth, your great love story. This is the price. You have to pay it yourself. I can't help you." With that, I turned my back on her pale, crumbling face and walked out of the room without a second thought. Behind me, I heard the sound of her suppressed sobs finally breaking into a raw, heart-wrenching wail. Felt good. The sound was cut off as the door clicked shut behind me, sealing her world away from mine, forever. College was a different universe, one that almost made me forget Lily and all the toxic baggage of my past. I devoured knowledge, joined clubs, and threw myself into every project I could. MIT was filled with brilliant minds, and sparring with them sharpened the business acumen from my past life, giving it a solid theoretical and technical foundation. I made new friends, people who share my drive. We started a few small ventures, stumbling along the way, but it was thrilling. Over the years, I heard bits and pieces about Lily from old high school classmates. After the hospital, she took a year off. Her health and her reputation were ruined. Her parents had drained their savings to pay her medical bills and looked like they'd aged a decade overnight. As for Kyle, he had just turned 18 when he was sentenced. With his priors, they threw the book at him. 7 years minimum. Lily had apparently tried to get help from his old crew, but they either hit on her or blew her off. The gritty, romanticized underworld she had once admired showed its true, ugly face the moment she had nothing left to offer. She became a cautionary tale that parents in our hometown used to scare their kids straight. I heard she eventually went back to school, but couldn't keep up. She ended up at some no-name community college. After that, the news about her dried up. The girl I had once put on a pedestal, the one who had lit up my entire youth, had finally flickered out, sinking into a mundane, unremarkable life. I felt no pity, only a sense of grim satisfaction. She had made her bed. 4 years later, my team and I caught the early wave of a new internet boom. Our project landed us a crucial angel investment. After graduation, instead of taking cushy jobs at major tech companies or going to grad school like most of our peers, we poured everything into our startup. The company grew at an explosive rate, and after several rounds of funding, we became one of the industry's new unicorns. During that time, I met women I was interested in, but the wounds from my past life made me cautious, distrustful. Most of my energy went into my work. On my 30th birthday, our company went public on the NASDAQ. As the founder and CEO, my net worth skyrocketed overnight. I was on magazine covers, a sought-after name in the media, a bona fide success story. Standing in the spotlight, looking out at the cheering employees and investors, I felt a deep sense of accomplishment. This life, the one I had built with my own 2 hands, was the one I was always meant to have. Without Lily, without the drama and the leeches, this was how bright my future was supposed to be. But fate, it seems, has a twisted sense of humor. At a major industry gala, I was holding court with a few key investors when a familiar figure caught my eye. She was holding a flute of champagne, tentatively but desperately trying to navigate the crowd to get to me. It was Lily. She had changed. She wore a cheap-looking pantsuit, and her makeup, though carefully applied, couldn't hide the exhaustion etched into her features. The pride and brightness in her eyes were gone, replaced by a calculating, almost fawning desperation. Life had not been kind to her. It looked like she was working for some small-time PR firm and had probably pulled a lot of strings just to get into an event of this caliber, hoping to network. She saw me, and her expression became a chaotic mess of shock, disbelief, regret, and a raw, hungry longing. I immediately looked away, pretending I hadn't seen her, and continued my conversation. But she wouldn't give up. The moment the investors moved on, she rushed over, her voice trembling with emotion. Jake, is that really you? I had no choice but to stop. I turned and looked at her, my expression cold and distant. Hello, do I know you? My feigned ignorance was like a bucket of ice water over her head. Her face went white. She forced a smile. It's me, Lily. Lily Vance. We went to high school together. Ms. Vance. I nodded, my tone as polite and impersonal as if I were speaking to a door-to-door salesperson. Can I help you with something? I can't believe how successful you are now, she stammered, her eyes greedily taking in my tailored suit and expensive watch. Congratulations. Thank you. I checked the time. I'm sorry, but I have other guests to attend to. As I turned to leave, she panicked and reached out to grab my arm. Jake, wait. I sidestepped her touch, my brow furrowing in annoyance. Her hand froze in midair, her face flushed with embarrassment and a raw desperation. Jake, I know I was wrong back then. I was young and stupid, and I hurt you. I'm so sorry. Please, for old time's sake. Ms. Vance, I cut her off, my voice dropping. There are no old times between us. There is only the memory of a rather unpleasant acquaintance. I'd appreciate it if you'd have some self-respect. My word were knives. Her eyes instantly filled with tears. How can you say that? We used to be what? I took a step closer, my gaze sharp, my voice low enough that only she could hear. You mean when you threw yourself away for a piece of human garbage and treated me like your personal servant? Or maybe you mean after I dragged you back from the brink of death, and you decided you hated my guts and wished I was dead. All the color drained from her face. Her lips trembled, but no words came out. Lily, I said, stepping back and resuming my calm, composed demeanor, though my another glance. I turned and walked back toward my partners, toward my brilliant future. Behind me, I could feel her shattered gaze, her whole world crumbling. I knew that last threat had severed any and all delusional fantasies she might have been clinging to. She finally understood. The Jake who had catered to her every whim, the boy who had worshipped her, had died a decade ago outside a filthy, smoke-filled bar. The man standing before her now existed in a different universe. And in his world, there wasn't an ounce of warmth left for her. A few more years passed. My business empire expanded, with investments in multiple sectors, and I became a titan of the industry. My life was full and orderly. My parents would occasionally set me up on dates, but I remained wary of marriage. Then, by chance, I heard some news from a college friend who now worked in corporate law. Kyle Brogan had been released from prison on parole. Unsurprisingly, he couldn't hold down a real job. A leopard doesn't change its spots. He quickly fell in with his old crowd, running low-level scams, shaking down local businesses, the usual. And Lily, I was told, after finishing her community college degree, had bounced between dead-end jobs. Older now, with no real career prospects and a tarnished reputation, she was barely scraping by. Somehow, she and the newly released Kyle had found their way back to each other. As for how Kyle found her, well, that had nothing to do with me. Just a coincidence. My friend's voice was tinged with a strange sort of pity. I heard the guy, Kyle, beats her regularly, forces her to go out and make money to support him, and if she comes back short, he takes it out on her. Apparently, she tried calling the cops once, but he always threatens her into dropping the charges. It's a sad situation. I listened, swirling the coffee in my mug, my expression unreadable. Sad? Maybe. But more than that, it was pathetic. And it was exactly what she deserved. One moment of weakness leads to a lifetime of compromise. She chose the abyss, and every time someone offered her a rope, she cut it and chose to sink deeper. What could anyone do? Do you want me to keep an eye on the situation? My friend asked tentatively. He knew a little about my history with Lily, but not the whole story. No, I said, my voice crisp. I set my mug down. Their lives have nothing to do with me. And from now on, you don't need to tell me anything else about them. Okay, understood, he said, getting the message. About 6 months later, I got a call from an unknown number. I had a feeling I knew who it was. I answered, but said nothing. On the other end, I heard Lily's voice, choked with sobs. It was hoarse, desperate, and full of pain. Jake, please. You have to help me. Kyle's not human. He's going to kill me. He took all my money, and now he's trying to make me. Please, I'm begging you. Her pleas were horrifying. In my past life, they would have sent me running to her side without a second thought. But now I felt nothing. Still, a small part of me wanted to laugh. I waited for a pause in her sobbing, then spoke, my voice devoid of any warmth. Lily, I think you have the wrong number. You should be calling 911, or maybe an ambulance. The crying on the other end stopped abruptly, as if my coldness had shocked her into silence. Jake, how could you? Or, I interrupted, my tone laced with an icy derision. You could call up your old friends? Weren't they the ones who were so loyal? The line was dead silent, save for her ragged breathing. Lily, I said, enunciating each word with surgical precision, a final verdict. We were over a long time ago. The moment you chose Kyle, the moment you decided to hate me for saving you, we became strangers. Whether you live or die, your pain, your suffering, you brought it all on yourself. Why in the world should I save you? So save your tears and your apologies. They're worthless to me. Don't call me again. If you do, I will file a harassment complaint and get a restraining order. I mean it, and I'm sure Kyle will find you again. Without waiting for a response, I hung up. Then I blocked the number. Silence. The world was quiet again. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows of my office. Below, the city buzzed with life, a vibrant tapestry of traffic and neon lights. My world was vast and full of purpose. I had important work to do, an incredible future to build. As for Lily and Kyle, they belonged in a dark, rotting corner somewhere, tormenting and consuming each other until there was nothing left. That was the final, inevitable destination of their great love story. And it had absolutely nothing to do with Jake Miller.